All right, here we go. All right, welcome everybody back to What Makes It Tick, episode 16. We are on today. It is April 30th, and we're going to talk a little bit about the newly released NDI6 and some of its tools, along with doing some little lab work with NDI Bridge. So I've been working with NDI6, been waiting on it for quite a while, but specifically, I have one client that keeps asking me about NDI. When's it going to be able to do 10-bit? When's it going to be able to do HDR? One client, only one, and he doesn't pay. So that's even more reason I've been ignoring him for quite a while. But he is adamant that streaming needs to move to HDR for whatever reason. One day, maybe it will. I'm not sure when that day is. I don't think it's anytime soon, because we can barely get 720p out of ESPN, and they happen to be kind of big in sports, just a little bit. So let's talk about NDI6. What did I find other than that? Big changes? Not really. It's all about the same. The icons are more or less the icons. They're all funky and hard to decipher now. So I had icons that I loved, or not say loved, but I could actually understand. Now they're just a little bit more pretty and marketing up, and now we have to figure it all out again. Thank God there's still text at the bottom that I can read and understand which icon does what, because they don't actually correlate as they used to, a little bit more to what things were. So Greg, we were just talking. We always get started a little bit early, and we were talking about moving to NDI 6. Not done yet, right? But we moved to 11 to try to get around some NDI, let's call it trampling, that was going on between the networks. So we moved to Windows 11, but not NDI 6. Or do you said you were on NDI 6?
So all the tools packages got upgraded to 6. But since the vMix core is not actually 6, I kind of didn't think about upgrading that DLL inside of vMix so that it's running 6 too. But so far, no issues. Let me make one correction about your ESPN comment. ESPN shoots everything in 1080. Actually, a lot of the shows are 1080p. The network is 720. But all the trucks that I see shooting ESPN, mostly NEP trucks, they're still shooting 1080 for those guys. And we shot the Masters, the Augusta National Women's Amateur. We shot in 1080p HDR this year, and then down converted to hand off to the NBC mothership. Uh, yeah, I'll tell you why you want to go to HDR. It looks way better, and I don't think there's a big bandwidth, if any. It's more of a how do you the dynamic range of the video, I think,
Right.
because it still fits in a 3G pipe. So
Yep. And
anyhow,
that's
looks way better. So
and I think
I'm
that's
all
one of
on
those
board,
things
and
that's
that's
going
one
to
of the
have to kind of
reasons.
work out, right? It's we're going to have
Yeah,
to all kind of figure this out, and just like every other progression that we've had to do.
yeah, but we still have a lot of like history content, highlights from previous years and stuff that's still in SDR. And the poor TD was jumping through a lot of hoops to have some conversion paths. So if something popped up unexpectedly in an SDR format, he had, like I could just route it through this frame sync and, we'll have it up converted to HDR and blah, blah, blah. Because otherwise it looks, if you don't put everything in the same format, it really looks odd. So
Right.
that was like a half a day of his setup was just spent on working out a couple of solutions that he could hop in on the fly as needed. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, no, I'm all behind that, and that convinced me to move to NDI6, vMix 27, the Windows 11 upgrade because of the 10 gig NIC thing. So feeling like all of that's a good move, at least here.
Good, good, good. JJ, and you're piddling around and things. Are you into the NDI 6 and developing anything with that?
Not yet. So I did the same thing. I tried to update the tools wherever I could, but since I have deployments that are underway right now, um, the cameras aren't. I can't bring them up to the HDR. So like even the ones at NDI, the new PTZ threes. I've got a number of those I'm deploying right now. So I'm trying to figure out how to get the Mage Wells as well. I've got a bunch of those, the converters, which are still on 553. Get those up to 6 to see if there's any improvement. I'd love to see that, but just deploying the tools locally and started playing with the back end do exactly that. Start testing to see how much more bandwidth is included with HDR. I've also got a Panasonic, the new 160s upstairs. I started playing with that for deployment because I met with Moses, and I'm excited again to see if I can get NDI6 up running from that.
Right.
See if those additional features or additional bandwidth makes it look prody.
Does it so John, on a vendor side, I see John from VizRT just came through. Thank you, John, for joining us. On a vendor side, are you getting requests? I mean, are there broadcasters literally requesting, why can't we do NDI with HDR? Is that what moved it forward finally?
I think historically, thinking about what are the two, what are the biggest complaints about NDI in the past? Compression, quality, right?
Right.
And what has come to be some of the comments and jokes is the 2 extra bits. Like literally broadcasters saying, well, that's not 10-bit. Right. Even in SDR, what is the 10-bit, right? So I think that is the natural, those were some of the natural things that the NDI team set out to change and do with NDI6. So even in a pipeline of just SDR, now being able to do 10-bit 422 has its benefits. Visually, I don't think you see a lot. I actually really know that you don't see a lot compared to, an 8-bit into 10-bit source. It's all in the chroma bits that you can do with the signal, post show.
Right.
And then the HDR component comes in, and that's kind of over the top in a request, and evolution of what NDI is. I will want to say, just to kind of like set the baseline too, from a standpoint of implementation with vendors and devices. So I don't know every single device that's going to be compatible with NDI6 from a standpoint of just turning on the ability to do HDR. I'm making assumptions that certain devices, their chipsets, their onboard chipsets just are not going to be able to handle those kind of things. And also just the implementation of when it takes vendors to put those changes in. And then there's the SDK, and I think it's important to define that and what you're going to look at, or what you're going to get from NDI6 as far as HDR. So a vendor, hardware or software manufacturer using the free SDK,
Right.
you are going to be able to view and decode a 10-bit HDR source. That source will immediately be down converted to 8-bit if your free SDK, if your product is using the free SDK.
Okay.
The dividing line, and I think this is a kind of like just another topic to talk about, but the dividing line is for the products that are using the advanced SDK. We'll be able to decode those HDR sources, and then they will be the only ones allowed to actually create a 10-bit HDR receiver. Those don't get down converted to 8-bit. They read the 10-bit, they read the metadata, and they could also create their own HDR senders. So I think from a historical standpoint, with the NDI team and the iterations and the evolution of NDI, this is really the value add that vendors and broadcasters have been maybe not asking for specifically in HDR, but it's an example of the adoption of the advanced SDK, what it all does in various areas of the advanced SDK. But now there is a nominal feature that does give distinct value.
Sure.
And I don't
that
think
makes total sense.
I don't think that has been. I think it's fair to say that that's not entirely what's been there in the past.
Great.
So I think for the first time, if I'm a vendor, I'm sitting there saying, okay, what is NDI6 going to give me? I'm on the fence. Do I continue on with my free SDK, or I go forward with an advanced SDK? This is one of those bigger defining features that would tip over to give you that value.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's always been a question I know a lot of people have asked about too, is like the differences in the SDK, and people don't it's going to take a lot of education, I think, in the field too. If this is why we don't do this, this is why we do it. And you can see the commitment, I think, between the vendors too at that. So, all right. So one of the things I wanted to do, and John and I already did a little testing earlier because he was early and I was just piddling around and stuff. And one of the things I wanted to do today is, as requested, is to set up a NDI bridge using, and I'm on NDI6. And I think, John, you said you were on 5 though, right? On your cloud. Yeah.
No, in cloud, I'm on 6.
You're on 6 there also. Okay.
Yeah.
Greg, what about you've got it too? I posted in the chat my IP address, because we're all friends here. I'll put my IP address, the port number I'm using, and the encryption key. So anybody that is logged into that, and honestly, I don't even know this question. Does it simultaneously take in multiple people?
Yes.
Okay.
You can have multiple joins on one host.
On one host. Okay. Right. All right. I just want to make sure of that. Which, by the way, is, as John and I were talking about this earlier too, whenever you have to open up the port. So if you're calling out, if you're joining, I had to open up ports here. 5990 is the magic port. Nowhere in the directions does it say TCP or UDP, or in the demo video or whatever that I could find. So I opened up both, and I don't know if does that need to be on both ends there, John, too? Does it a two-way communication over the 5990, or does it just a one-way calling into the host to say I have these sources?
I've always just used for traffic. I don't know, actually.
Just the host.
Yeah,
Just the host. I assumed it
Yes.
was communication to the host. Right. Okay.
because if I block traffic,
And so, Lenny, is it UDP or TCP that it needs to be on?
Honestly, I don't remember. I haven't done it in a long time.
Usually
and
set it and forget it and never talk to it again.
okay, I will reveal a little bit here. When this stuff first came out, I tried to nail down Andrew Cross and say, how the hell does this work? What am I supposed to do? And even he didn't know how it worked.
That's
So-
a classic.
You know what I'm saying? And that was what, 4 years ago, something
Yeah,
like that. So the fact of the matter is the host is the most important thing. Getting that host up
Right.
and running is
Right.
number one, and getting it revealed to the world, I guess, if you will. And honestly, I don't ever do anything local bridge anymore. I just use Cloud Bridge because that's got way simpler control over the access points.
yeah, Jeff. I guess in my situation, we've always opened it up on both ways, but I don't know if that's just you don't need to do that, or it's just what we've always done. So
most firewalls are stateful firewalls, meaning outbound is allowed no matter what, whereas inbound would be what you wouldn't allow. Thus, on Jeff's side, we need to set up whatever it might be. And as I recall this might be outdated at this point, but since NDI5 was using reliable UDP as its primary, it'll fall back to TCP if reliable UDP fails. So opening TCP makes the most sense because it'll be what you fall back to. But you should be able to open up both UDP and TCP on the inbound. When you're creating that role.
And just that's what I did, but it would be nice to know this is what we should do, because any open holes are still open holes, right? And we try to keep that to a minimum on any security group or any firewall for that matter. Just good practice. All right, so I am currently seeing some traffic come through from.
Did you post that stuff earlier? Because I just joined a little bit ago and didn't get to see it.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah, it's
trying
in
to figure out how to
my
make
group.
something work. Oh, there it is.
Right
Okay.
there. So I see a 1F bridge, so that must be Greg.
How'd
And
you know?
I see a P100, and look at that. And now I'm controlling said P100.
Oh, hey, wait a minute. How do I stop that?
Remember, metadata is metadata. So
Yep.
yes, PTZ control. Yeah, see, I got to get your headroom just right.
Just recall preset 1. Thank you.
There you go. Yeah, that was one of the things I do like about it, and that's why the flex control surface is so attractive to me too. Flex 2 being able to just link up things over the NDI bridge. And Greg, I see your vmix output. Yep, there it is. Nice and
Which one?
strong. All right, so this is vmix 2. I see you have 2 now. Okay.
Yeah, 2's the one running the stress test. 12 SDI captures.
Gotcha.
5 is this machine.
Okay. And
Sourcing for the playbacks.
I see all that going on. So a question I have for you then, whenever I see, look at my mute, got audio on and silent. Okay. So I'm not seeing, whenever it's saying bandwidth down here, guys, I am seeing sending, of course, is kilobits because I'm actually not sending anybody apparently. The receive though is only about 9 megabits to 20. Looks like I may hit 19 something, 20.6, and it's just up and down, up and down, up and down. So this is variable bit rate. Then I'm assuming because it's all over the place.
Almost seems like it's backwards because
It's
I'm not
probably
looking at anything, and my send is almost nothing. And Jeffy's looking at my stuff, and my receive is cycling between 6 and 1200.
and chances are it's all HX right now. It depends on what your encoder
Yeah.
settings are too.
Yeah, camera's
I
gonna be
get that, but why would my outbound be listed as receive?
It should.
Or is that from Jeffy's perspective since he's the host? Seems like this should be my node.
Right. You should be able to see what you're sending at that point. Right.
Yeah, I'm sending next to nothing. 7 megs. And
Are
did
you
you just,
s-
so did
are
you
you
just
seeing
disconnect
mine?
from my vmix?
Yes. No.
Yeah, okay. Well,
Now
I'm
I have.
thinking you did.
Now I
Oh,
have.
okay, there you go. Yeah, okay. So my receive just went to 0 when you did that. Yeah, that's backwards.
It seems that way to me too.
I'm not sending anything and my send's at 0, but I'm looking at a still desktop of Jeff's Dell 9-01 and I'm receiving 39 kilobits.
Yeah, I did notice that screen capture is really cut it way down. So encoder settings that I have mine set to, so that would be sources coming from my end. I'm on high because I am. So 16 megabits at 1080p 60. So that should mean full NDI, right?
Hold on.
Or is that still HX?
Full NDI is do not transcode.
Yeah, like that first line says output, and you can't change it once your bridge starts.
Yeah, I see that now. Okay, yeah, I am on NDI HX. Okay, so that explains the low numbers that I was.
And you can change even from 264 and 265. Your encoder settings.
But you have
but
to stop bridge in order to turn it off, change the settings, turn it back on.
Yep.
All right, let's see. So on this machine that I'm on right now, just to kind of making logs on everything, I'm running it. Well, I am running Zoom meeting, and so the 3 things I have up: a browser, Zoom meeting, and bridge, and then a NDI monitor, studio monitor. And I'm running at 54% on a 4 gigahertz i7 quad core i7. And this memory is I'm using about half of 16, so about 8. So that kind of gives you an idea of, oh, and I just put a new graphics card in. That I did splurge on that a little bit. So the new graphics card is actually running 54%. And it's a what is this stupid thing? A 4060 RTX 4060. So not a shabby one, but I was just curious because I know the other one I had in here was a 660 from like 1920, I think, or something. It was really old, and I just gave up on it. So
The old timey one.
it was actually a big card. You know what it actually was? It was the same card that was in a TriCaster, and that's the reason I had it extra because I never wanted to be without a card whenever I was on the road. With that specific one that fit in that specific slot, I think it was a TC1. But yeah, I finally updated this one to a full-on card. Yeah, so bandwidth wise, I'm not seeing anything more than 60 megabits going out. Averaging, it's all over the place. So I'm averaging about 30 actually. So that's not too bad on the bandwidth side.
Yeah, it looks like somebody's looking at some source through my network now because I'm sending around, it looks like around 10 to 16 megabytes.
So are you Cloud City? Is that you?
Yes.
No, that'll be me watching. So that answers the can participants see each other on the bridge question.
So they don't.
No, they
can.
do.
You do, yes.
So I'm connected to the Pizzazz bridge, but
Yeah,
I see John's stuff. I'm looking at his
Yeah,
TriCaster.
once you're
He's
connected to the
connected to you
host, it creates a network amongst everybody.
Yeah, because
Like
I'm
a
in
giant
there.
circle.
If you see a P520C, that's a VM that I, just bridged into, and I'm just sharing it with doing screen capture.
Yep, there it is.
Cool.
Well, it's dependent on what you have in Access Manager for groups that you want to share. You can choose to not share everything.
It's pretty cool. Very, very cool.
So how is this bandwidth wise? Like if we, let's say, have like 4 cameras in a venue and we want to uplink those to the cloud, and those are like full NDI cameras, is it then actually going to use like 400 Mbits, or do we like need to convert it, or what's
Unless you tell it,
the
right?
game there?
Only
Yeah,
if
you
tell
can,
it
if you have
not.
the bandwidth to do full bandwidth NDI, you can do full bandwidth NDI. If you want to use the encoders and do it a 624 or 264 or a 265 stream,
Mhm.
you could set it for that.
Yeah, you can choose it. I just chose, HEVC 10-bit, and I mean, you do need to stop the bridge and then make the change.
All
And
right,
it'll
so
do
here's
that.
a good test then is what about if I stop my bridge, does that stop everybody else's?
Correct, because you're the host.
Yes, because you're the
Yes.
host.
Boop, boop.
And so if I want to like have issues with packet loss and stuff like that, that's where then I can use the buffer.
Correct.
Yes.
And since it's RUD, am I right that it's like RUDP? So basically it's like relatively similar to SRT conceptually, with like sending missed packets again and all that.
I don't want to say
Nice.
exactly.
I
like
can't remember exactly that because I know one of the developers is just over here. I could go get him.
You on that other side.
We're not allowed to let them to talk to people. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Some
that's
things
always
never
a bad
changed.
idea.
He's just right there.
But it takes forever for the bridge to shut down. Say that.
It
Yes,
does.
when you're the host, it does.
All right, finally shut down now. So output, so high bandwidth, and that's the only check. Got it. So does that affect everybody then that's attached to this host that
Only-
everybody would use?
Only looking at your sources.
Content, my content.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
is
let's say
that-
you have yours as full NDI and I have mine as HX3,
Right.
whatever. Everything I get is going to be encoded by that machine, that local machine, for example. So that GPU has to be pretty rocking if you want to do a bunch of stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So it's going to pull it down and make it lower bit rate, lower bandwidth. You know, but that only happens after it reaches my encoder. So I'm going to be pulling in full bit rate NDI at that point and encoding it down to HX, and then that'll be distributed across my local network. Now, if I send in a full NDI over to you, full NDI, and you take it full NDI, it's taking everything full NDI everywhere.
Okay.
And I guess it doesn't hit the GPU unless someone connects to one of your sources, right?
Correct. Well,
Mhm. Or
the GPU hit is on the receiver side, because unless I'm taking full NDI
Encoding.
sources, encoding them to HX and then distributing them that way, then
Yeah.
that is true. Okay, let me see if I can do something. Let me try
And
something.
is that for all your sources? Like all of them are in that format then, or is that where you do the do not
Yes.
transcode and that way
Every-
you can send both?
Everything goes through there is going to be transcoded that way.
Okay.
Everything that goes through your bridge port, if you your hole, is going to be transcoded.
yeah, potentially you could have two bridges, one set to full NDI, another one set to HX, and you know,
Yes.
connect the host bridge, and now you're kind of choosing what to send full, and what to send
That's
compressed.
exactly, because like they have to do the stop thing and then downscale, or if you I got bandwidth, let me go up. That would be the problem. So you really need two machines, or
So-
have two machines running with one on either way.
You can't run bridge multiple times on the same machine, right?
It's gonna
No.
still use the same GPU, so
Yeah.
Got it.
Why is it this way?
Will it do multi GPU? I mean, because I know it has a drop down list where you can choose the GPU. It'd be interesting to see whether you can kind of choose if you have a computer with two GPUs, whether you can.
someone fire up in AWS one of those expensive multi GPU instances. Turn it up, baby.
Turn it up.
Who wants to- who wants to go?
You can do a spot instance.
Yeah, you can choose it. Like if you're on a laptop,
You
like
can
on my
choose the
laptop,
Intel
I
or
can
You
the
can do the
choose-
integrated or the
yeah.
cool.
Do you have access to like those parameters, or is that like pretty much best effort, typical H.264 parameters, and then you just have the bitrate to configure?
It's pretty simple. I'll be honest with you. You only have like 5 or 6 things you can check. High, medium, low, HX3, I think, and
Yeah,
then
that's
there's a
what it
little bit of
was
a buffer.
asked.
That's it.
But you could actually in that menu, you could actually drag that bar as a
Cool,
custom.
yes.
You
You're
don't
going to go more than 16, but not
Yeah, you can
23.
kind of.
if you really want to go 51%, because that's the sweet spot, and 50%'s too not enough, you can drag it to 51%.
That is true. That is true.
But like iframes and stuff like that is already optimized for NDI usage.
Well, I can say what I was getting from Greg was looking really smooth from the vmix 2, I guess it was. I was just looking at the program out on it. And from what I could see from JJ's UE160, he needs to still put the NDI plug-in on it because I can't see nothing. So get busy.
So when are they going to give HX3 to the pennies? Because it's just regular HX and the latency is like 3 or 4 frames. I'm not okay with that.
Yeah. Because that has to do with the chip inside, from what I understand, and it's whether or not they are doing HX2 being H.264, HX3 HEVC, right? So it depends if they do it themselves. So if they program it for it.
Well, I know my older cameras probably won't ever go that way, but you'd expect all the newer stuff to support 3.
Yeah, for sure. From the that? Was that 2 year ago? I guess is HX3, maybe 2 now. Been a while. Well, the video I'm seeing from John on NCIO Edge, which is directly, that's off your player box, right, John?
Yep.
So that video looks pretty good. But let me ask you that, is that HX? That is?
No, so that's just Connect Pro running
I know, but the
clips.
bridge settings though, I'm pulling HX3 from
Oh,
you.
gotcha. Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah, oh yeah, I definitely see it in the because it's basketball footage.
Yeah,
So-
mine's set to right now. Mine just defaulted with 8 megabit. I could
Oh.
shut mine off and change it.
Show them what Ultra looks like, John. Looks
Yep.
beautiful.
Let me see.
So if I'm joining somebody, how do I dictate what my encode going back to anybody is? Is that still in the encoder
It's-
settings on the host page?
No,
Do those
that's
still
your
apply, or-
encoder settings on your join bridge panel.
Was there? Oh,
That's what you're sending.
Oh, I see. I neglected
Yeah.
to see that. Thank you. So I'm sending HX.
All right,
Yeah.
say that again. I'm sorry, I had a interrupted call. So
Oh, no, I was just, how do I dictate what my outbound is if I join? Because I know that you can set it if you're the host, but I didn't see the encoder settings on the join page. So,
gotcha.
I've changed mine over to Ultra HX 264.
Okay.
so you said that mine looked good out of my vMix 2, and my settings were at HX and 264.
Yeah, it's still.
And then it's auto GPU. So do I even have an Intel in this thing? I don't know if I do or not. Let's
not
go
on the
look.
Dells. No?
Wrong Dell.
So what I'm seeing, I was seeing earlier too, John,
No,
is
I
that
do have.
the floor, the reflections in the floor are lots and lots of macro blocks. So
Say
that's
again?
what I
My
was
third-
wondering. But it is saying I'm getting 20 megabits per second.
What were you saying, Jeff? You were looking at my clips on the
Yeah,
floor?
I'm looking at your clip, channel 1 out of the NCIO.
Yep.
And the floor, so it's that reflective basketball floor.
Yep.
It is really struggling. So is it the source footage possibly that's
Yeah. The
already
source
like
footage
that?
is 100% was like recorded in a 3-play at some point and re-rendered somewhere. So
Gotcha. Okay.
that footage is not pristine by any stretch of the imagination. That clip player I use to fill my switcher for demos and training and testing, workflows. I'm
Gotcha.
not worried about what that footage looks like.
That was the only thing I was noticing, and that's why I couldn't tell whether or not it was in the transcode coming over bridge or was it in the actual file itself. Hard to find files that work. All right, so Greg, I don't see you anymore though. Is
No,
you still
I hopped out to look at settings.
on? But thank you, John, for at least not recording 1080i and showing them
Well, I'm not a monster.
interface like stuff. I can see that part at least.
Yeah, I actually think these clips actually were probably recorded 720p.
Is that the old Texas Legends? Like,
no, it's the Youngstown State
Oh.
footage I got.
oh yeah, that okay, that's even lower. Okay,
It's 7
Yeah,
it's
that-
720. You know why it's 720, Jeff?
Because it's on ESPN. That's why.
That's right. That's right.
No, they're starting to require it. I've talked to a couple different trucks that just as Greg mentioned earlier, NAP's pushing 1080p in the truck itself and then downscaling to 720 to hit them. But I know for the streaming side, I had conversations about it. and ESPN was saying, "I'll take 1080p on just the stream side, not linear, but just
Yeah,
the
of course.
stream side."
Yeah, they're not. They don't want to pay. They don't want to pay the bandwidth change and all the equipment infrastructure.
Yep.
It's
Well, it's a big deal to swing a whole truck over. I mean, you have to swing every CCU, all the graphics, the
Yep.
EVSs, the switcher. I mean, that's a lot for an EIC have to go through and configure. It's a lot easier to just say, hey, leave the truck in 1080 and we'll downscale the one thing that leaves here.
and also the trucks that were only able to do 720 are now aging out. Right.
One would hope.
So that's another part of it is that progression is naturally happening, right?
Okay, so I got Greg's feed back up.
So I changed to high bandwidth and HEVC this time around.
Okay.
By the way, I forgot that I never installed when I did the 11 upgrade. I never installed the HEVC encoders. Apparently, you don't need it on 11. That's a happy.
Right. That is true. That is another benefit
Is
of
it?
it. That VMix uses all the available CUDAs that are there. All right. So Greg, what is your bandwidth there? Just physical bandwidth for your fiber or whatever?
My Google Fiber,
Yeah.
980 something typically going out.
So no holdups there. I am definitely seeing some stuttering though. So that's what I was wondering.
From what?
From VMix output 1, VMix 2.
So that could be because I only have a gigabit link that goes down to the garage where that lives at the moment. So that might be part of it. Because there's
video.
Well, right. I mean, I have fiber up in my attic to like right there, and I can't get it down the wall.
But we're still way under a gigabit if you're doing HX3.
Well, no, but it's probably full bandwidth coming up here, and there's a lot of other stuff going on between here and there. It's not just that. So I don't know. I'd have to look at the switch to see what the traffic is, but I have had some stuttering issues from down there.
And what
to
are you
up here.
running Bridge on? You're running Bridge on a 3930 or you're
No, the Bridge is what are my new ones? I forget what they are. Hold on. 3650s are up here. They're 11th gen i9s with A4000s.
That's stout. Yeah.
Why mess around, right?
Well, no, I'm just curious why I'm seeing this. That was the only thing.
Well, like I said, I've had some, and there's like 3 switch hops between VMix 2 and up here too. So who knows? I have seen some stuttering between there and here. So,
but it was
So-
smoother earlier.
well, I don't know unless it's the fact that I changed my my encoder settings were on auto before, and I told it to use the A4000 this time around, and then I changed to high bandwidth, 11 megabits, and I changed to HEVC, unless something it doesn't like about that. Here, hold on. Let's see. And then you're right, this takes a long time to get out.
Yeah, it takes forever.
Having a Trump moment there.
RTX Bridge. Who's that?
That's me.
Yes, that is Josh.
So I'm not getting any frames right now. I'm trying to look at any of the sources and it's still frozen on. Let's see, does this work? Like, what would be the steps to debug something like that? I stopped the bridge and started it again.
I'm actually that's why I was wondering, because I'm still at the same settings on my computer itself, so it's not like I'm overtaxing my computer. But Josh's video is just a fixed frame right now. And let me go back up to the Cloud City one.
I'm not getting any frames anywhere.
Me either.
I don't know what's like. I can't even connect right now. I was trying to get you onto our network and show you a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I stopped to change settings and now it just says connecting to hosts. So.
Yeah.
And Jeff, on those ports, did you open up 5990 UDP at just everything, or did you still only do one?
UDP 5990 and TCP 5990.
There's nothing else in the way. Like, I mean, if it's open, it's open. But
Yeah. No, this is on that IP address, there's definitely not.
It's weird because it worked earlier, and I also earlier I got kicked. It stopped and it said like an error message that Jonas' laptop bridge already was connected and that I would need to rename. So
That's
might be
interesting.
taxing it a little too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still waiting to connect too.
And did you
For
reset
traffic.
anything, Jeff? Because
Yeah.
was looking at it. Oh yeah, you did. Okay.
Tried to hit stop.
Yeah, because it kicked me out. I was looking at a source and then it kicked me out, and now it's just slowly populating the
It's
sources.
just going
again.
stop. All right, so then there's a question, or maybe we'll call it a question. We'll call it a feature request. Then write this down. Redundancies. How do we set up redundant connections so that if one is down, if a bridge host is down, what do you do? Or is there something already in place?
I don't know. I haven't thought about that.
Yeah, because there's only one host, right? So if the host fails, that's it. Everybody's down. I mean, you could add another join at the local location and have two paths to go out, I would think. But yeah, but if the host dies, that's it. Everybody's gone.
Womp, womp, womp. So
Maybe you should have primary host, secondary host, kind of like another protocol.
Be able to pass on even if they're not both active, be able to pass on the host. But that just, opening ports, and that would be a little bit tricky to implement.
Mm-hmm. All right,
Just
so
anyone
I
still
just fired it back
connected?
up.
Oh, there we go. No, I'm connected.
Oh, there you go.
5, 6, 7 client connections, 8 client connections.
Boink. So what did you do? Just restart your bridge?
Yeah, and I changed it from full out to there I just got an error come in. Your GPU's encoding limits have been reached.
Oh.
Applied to the bridge in high bandwidth mode.
4,000 what?
So it says that. All right, so that's at 8 clients connected.
Yeah, you can only do certain event codes depending on the card. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
and
it's
what are we
GeForce,
subscribing
right?
to, right?
Yeah,
So,
you only get 5 if you're HEVC. That's
Which
why I use Quattros.
I am at
just remember that's what is being encoded by your local machine that somebody else is pulling.
Right.
Okay. It's not what you're receiving, it's what somebody else is taking.
And so the host machine is all data running through the host machine?
No.
Or is it only for signaling?
Yes, that is only for a signal link at that point.
So
yeah,
if
the P2P is
so
like if you try to get mine, it does all Jeff's doing is making the connection. The actual video data is going point to point at that point.
Right.
Interesting.
So is it safe to say if you're running a GeForce with a 5 encode limit or for HEVC, I can only pull 5 cameras out of your box? Because that's
5
it?
full res or 5 not preview, but proxy, not non-proxy versions. Like if you're using a TriCaster, it uses fast switching, so it uses the proxy version, not the full signal.
Right, but let's say I want to pull 8 sources for like an 8-up or something. That's not going to work.
No, because you don't have the encoders.
So we need to. So what is a Quadro? Where's the limit on the Quadro then?
Until you run out of
resources.
Horsepower.
Well, so couldn't you have multiple ingest systems with running bridge in local mode, transcoding it into HX, and then you have one that does the uplink that is set to do not transcode?
Right. Okay. That's like bridgeception at that point.
That's kind of what I'm thinking too.
Because if you're running in a local mode and then another one running, that would technically work. Yeah, that would technically work.
All right, Sal. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna cluster 8 machines together in NKIS. We're gonna have all that clustered together, all sitting on Proxmox. Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah.
Sure.
We'll call it a dam instead of a bridge.
Yeah.
That
So you
is
can
gonna
break
be-
it down.
Can we
that's gonna
call
be
it a
like the
dam
bridge
bridge?
in Norway.
Absolutely.
All right, so this is the error. I finally got it to pop up again. So besides that, encoding limits have been reached. Some sources may be supplied to the bridge in NDI high bandwidth format. So it looks like past the encode part, it just flips over to NDI and says, "Oh, take whatever you
Yeah.
want, but you better have the bandwidth."
Right.
Okay. Yeah, because I agree with Greg. Right now, it's saying I'm receiving everything from 21 up to 50 megabits per second. It just seems like that whole bandwidth thing is backwards to me. It's like
Okay.
the send is 9 megabits, but if somebody's pulling stuff off of me, that's not right.
Right.
And
So
I've
look at
only
my
got
vmix
one
2 again
video
and see if
pulling.
it's still stuttering.
I'm on VMix 2 and not stuttering. It just went to fast speed. Is that clip by any chance?
Nah.
I don't know.
No,
I
it
don't
shouldn't
know if
be.
everyone has it, but I put a link in the chat of just the link of the NDI tools for Windows like document that's
Yeah.
posted on the NDI website.
Oh, that'd be helpful too. Oof.
Yeah, they have documentation now, guys. It's wild.
That's great. That's a
Oh.
first.
What?
Again, I
Another
think this
book I
is
won't read.
like I said it was at the beginning. Like there's been changes, and
Now,
you know,
release notes.
documentation is one of them.
Yes.
So it says alpha channel. If I need to get like key fill graphics over, I can still transcode it to H.265, get it over, and then output it again on that side.
Correct.
Yes. It'll take the alpha
Neat.
with it.
That's actually handy.
Like, let me see which machine.
So right now I'm at 30, 40 megabits send and receive 70 megabits. I don't know where all that other 70s coming from because I only have one machine up. Unless, I actually had my processing engine pulling earlier. Let me see if it's still pulling from John's. Nope.
And if I need to restrict how many, like what people can pull, that's where I use access groups. And then I just don't tell everyone all the access groups.
Right.
Because like I'm a little scared. We had one production that I was just EICing and wasn't training the techs. And suddenly a tech is like, oh yeah, my vmix is so slow. And they pulled down over their VPN 2 full NDI sources into Studio Monitor. And I'm like, what did you do? Well, it worked. I'm like, oh, no, please. So
Didn't work that well.
works until it doesn't.
Yep. All right. So I see Jonas has got vMix. Let's see what it is from Germany. Come on. Yeah. No.
Working. How's the latency? I put the time code on there so you can.
I got no signal from you.
You get no
Output
signal
1 or
from me.
output 2. What about you, Greg? Do you see it?
Well, I'm looking at one of his NCIO feeds, and it keeps stopping, and then it catches up, and then it stops, and then it catches up.
All right.
It's very odd.
I see Joe's laptop. But
And the other problem I've seen in the past, and this was probably at least a month ago when I was playing around with this, is that the audio was coming across the bridge in very near real time, and the video was half to 1 second late. So it was substantially out of lip sync on the other end of the bridge. What do we think about that? Or is that just an older version back then?
Yeah, I'm breaking. I think I'm breaking because with 8 clients, I can't get to. I see Jeffrey's.
Try to get to me. I put up put up color bars and test. You
Yeah,
can
I'm
see
trying to
the
get the
latency.
Jonas, but no, I'm just get a black screen.
Mine's not resolving.
So Greg is posing a good question with Bridge. Is audio and video still tied together and staying in sync, or is it, since it's different frames, is it like both get us there as fast as possible?
Hmm.
You know,
They should be
ask-
together. I mean,
Right, it should be embedded, right?
because the frames are coming at the same time. I don't know. I have to ask one of the guys.
Or while you're asking that too, is can we do more than two channels?
Of what?
Audio.
Of audio,
Yeah.
can I send
Probably, yeah.
video in 16 channels as a
Why
source?
not?
Why couldn't you?
I
So
thought
like,
that's the whole thing that with the AV Sonos things that you could do that with Bridge.
so audio wise, if so, Jeff, if you subscribe to my Vector Mix 1, right?
Yeah.
You should be able to see at least 4 channels right now.
I say 2.
Hold on.
Hold on.
Let me look at the same thing.
Just route everything down number 1 and
NDI.
Should mix it all to channel 1 anyway. Is that what that camera guy said?
So which one, John?
Vector Mix Output 1.
Ox,
Cloud City.
BFR.
Mix out, not aux out.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
scrolling.
But I'm guessing
B-
it would have to be full NDI, right?
Is
Because
this BESPINV something vector mix one, that one?
Yep.
So okay.
When NDI HX 2 and
Can-
3, they
can-
do
can-
multi-channel audio.
can they?
Yes.
Okay, got it. I wasn't
Yeah,
sure.
'cause there's two separate encos there. But on
Mhm.
Studio Monitor that I have up, yeah, I'm only seeing 2 channels there, John. Do we have, are there 4
I just
channels?
added it as a source in vmix. Vmix only seeing 2 channels too.
So I know that source has 4 channels on it. Whether or not Studio Monitor allows you to see the 4 channels on its like VU meters display, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think it does. I think Studio Monitor is a 2 channel.
But I know for sure that my mix out has, I'm routing 4 channels and I could route 8 channels down it if I wanted to. I'm not sure about, so like
Or
Jeff, maybe
Or does the encode to HX drop everything but 1 and 2 in the encode process?
but that quite possibly could be a thing that, but I'm not sure about that one.
Yeah, I don't either.
Well, I'm gonna do a little investigation here because I'm gonna go into my processing engine, take that feed and stick it into an audio monitor analyzer, and I'll tell you what's there in just a second. So many sources, guys. This is fun. There you go. Thank God for search. All right. Vector mix 1.
So I just changed my bridge name. So
Ah!
Bridgeception.
Audio.
So in
monitor.
do the feeds also keep their groups for NDI?
As far as access manager groups, you can.
Yeah.
You have to
Okay.
you have to check that button before you start.
So Jeff, I'm actually sending 8 channels now. I put bars on 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Rat, dirty bastard. I hate bars.
Mhm.
All right, yeah.
Hey, at least I
so-
told you about it.
yeah.
Bars are
Um,
fine. It's the tone that kills me.
I was about to say
Good
putting
point.
mouse
Okay,
on
all right.
audio, that's totally fine.
So
and just
I'll
remember
shut
when
it
I'm
up.
mixing, don't ever
saw
piss
it.
off the guy with the tone.
I saw it. So right now so it is something to have to do with NDI Studio Monitor. I wonder who wrote that. So the channels 1 and 2 are working. Channels 3 and 4 are working. I saw 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 when you had tone going across.
How about now? I just put
Yes.
tone.
Yep.
I see 'em.
There they are. Mhm.
I see 'em.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we
What do you
can't
see,
send.
Sal? Where are you?
Oh,
seeing-
I'm looking at your workstation.
All right.
I'm looking at your CNN and your
Forgot about
workstation.
Yeah, part of the problems, right? So
Yeah.
it looks like it's then just a thing with Studio Monitor. We need the ability to be able to choose any of those channels at that point.
Are you seeing them in vMix, Greg?
Closed it, but I wasn't previously.
Because I think normally you see them in vMix.
Yeah. Well, that's why I threw them in there. I've never seen
So
anything other than 1 and 2 in Studio Monitor.
one more really dangerous thing is KVM still works.
Hmm.
So
But you have control over shutting that off and on.
I know, but just FYI, when you
Yeah.
do this, KVM still works.
It's pretty cool.
Which I have mine purposely shut off. All right, so it looks like we made some headway, and I've got a better understanding about it. It is. I still don't know if I would throw this in. Oh wow, I'm up at 160 megabits per second now, and 80. Let's see what my bandwidth is on my machine itself. I'm at 99% on my CPU.
So I will say the best bridge experiences I've had is when cloud things are talking to other cloud things.
Mhm.
That is a much smoother. Like I pulled up my TC Now instance and connected to John's, and it's just like butter. Okay.
Right.
I don't know why that just makes sense. I guess because it's all going to be in the same Amazon data centers probably.
Sure.
So it just that is an experience that is much better. And now when you think about all you need to do is with this bridge on device settings that are part of NDI6 now, that's going to change the way we interact with cloud instances, right? So you just connect the camera to the network, turn it on basically. And now it's not going through an encoder of any kind, it's just sending itself straight there. And
Right.
once it gets there and it's moving around the cloud anyways, then it's it's a much smoother experience from a operator perspective.
How is that sync wise? Like if we have NDI Bridge on 4 cameras, how are we able to sync them?
That depends on your entire signal flow. I mean, with the tools I have in place here, I can tweak that as necessary. I mean, every TriCaster has video and audio sync delay, or video and audio delay.
So but like,
But they're not
it
synced.
doesn't have a method to sync them. They just all
no,
get
there's
synced.
no like bridge genlock type of tool that we could deploy. I mean,
Well, but if the cameras are the sources on the ground or wherever they are synced together, they should all stay synced together through bridge.
Keyword shirt.
yes.
Yeah,
In-
everything's time stamped, so they should all
Yeah.
be in sync.
All right.
What's
guys,
the
this
minimum
was
latency
fun.
you would use?
I've got to step off. Greg, leave it in your capable hands. Just end the meeting whenever you're done. Guys, I'll see you again next week. Got to run, do some stuff with my daughter. And yeah, don't kill my machine while I'm gone.
Everybody pull everything.
So buffer, do you just set that to 0 milliseconds normally, or do you use like 3 times round trip time? Is there any like recommendation on that?
Honestly, I have only left it at 0 because we only have done this with like 3 or 4 cameras at a time. We've never really stress tested. I mean, there's probably the biggest bridge instance of anything I've ever seen going on right now. I'll be honest with you, from my perspective. That's just the way I see it right now. Kind of crazy.
And then I am seeing the 4 channels in vMix from the vector on Mix 1.
Yep. Yep.
Yep. Pretty cool.
What's crazy is you don't have any well, you do get tally information, right, John?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of cool. I don't know, man. There's a lot going on here.
So with those new surfaces where you use NDI to control instances, then you just also like that isn't affected by transcoding to HX or any of that. That just goes
Nope.
straight through the bridge.
Yeah, we're just
Yes.
using so I could turn on my local NDI bridge in my office here, and I have the new control panel that most of you saw at NAB, and it will sniff the entire NDI network for any TriCaster, and then I'll be able to connect to that TriCaster and control it with the panel. And all we're doing is using from NDI, we're just using metadata calls to then control the switcher software in that sense.
And your panel
I'm seeing
can find
I'm seeing 2 Joshes, and it's really scary.
Yeah, double Josh. It's looping.
so like the bridge advertises all the sources it has access to, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I see.
So, for example, I have my TriCaster now running. John from his studio there could take control of it with it just by hitting Shift Alt Z or whatever it is, and just finding it, going from it.
That's neat.
Or
Yep.
any of the TriCasters that are in my office here, because I put them on the same bridge network that he's.
Yeah, so I could go into the entire San Antonio office right now, and any
Well, a
TriCaster that's on that
portion
network.
of it.
Yeah. In anything that I have the user group, the access manager access to, and I could see every TriCaster on that network and connect to it. And then it also allows for multiple panels to control the same software as well, which has been a long time feature by a lot of operators.
So question for you, John, what's new with the NDI Bridge hardware as far as embedded? What's going on there? What was announced at NAB? I know Roberto was talking about it in an interview and was all excited about it.
I'm not the best person to
Well,
enunciate
I'll
every
give you a
single-
little bit. It's just basically that you can have NDI Bridge in the device now.
Yeah.
It can be part of the software that's in a camera, for example, or an encoder. So you go to the configuration page for a PTZ camera, for example, and there will be a new tab there that says bridge or whatever, and you can enter the bridge credentials and have it joined directly instead of having to run it through an encoder system like we are right now through another computer on the network, if you will. And so the advantage of that becomes is you can just plug the camera in, and once it's on the network, it's now broadcasting to the bridge, no matter with minimal setup, and you don't need like I said, another system on the network to help control it or to do an encoding for you. And then when you think about we just talked about this new Connect Tetra device that has 4 channels of that built into it. So if you had four cameras coming directly into that machine just itself does the encoding for you, and you don't have to have, like I said, another system on the network to handle it.
Great, thank you.
And since we're using an encryption key, this is also end-to-end encrypted.
outside of you publicly posting your IP
Exactly.
port number
I
and
mean-
encryption key like Jeff here. Yes.
Yeah, that. Apart from that, hey,
Yeah.
it was encrypted during transit.
Yeah. But now everybody's screen sharing, so
All right, so I'm open to doing a real camera test next week. Anybody open to doing that?
depends.
Do you have multiple cameras?
I've only got about 20 of them, so I'll take
Perfect,
I'll
I'll take it.
take it on. let's give it. And I'd love to see the whole sync thing. That's the part that really has me wondering also.
Yeah, we could do it a little more organized and have like you, Jeff, do cameras, and then one person, or Greg also can do it locally. vMix and like this vector
Yep.
in the cloud, and like just do those pipelines and see what happens. I think that would be cool.
Yeah, I'm open for it. I mean, that's what I want this show to be about, guys, is us trying things and doing the test of pushing it. Just like Lenny said, is, you know, if you've never seen anything this big before, then let's do something bigger and break it, because then we know where the limits are.
I love breaking stuff. I'm in.
So we're doing it in 4K HDR.
I was
Right.
gonna say.
Yeah, should we invite some camera manufacturers? Well, anybody know anybody in the PTZ world that might want to join us?
I
I
might
have a
not have any
4K.
PTZs that are 4K HDRs, but I definitely have all mine sitting in the other room right now or
Don't
capable
the
of that.
FR7s do HDR?
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you gonna do this next week, or when are you gonna do this?
I'm okay with trying it next week.
If we actually want to do an actual HDR test, then I'm the only one that has a switcher that can do HDR.
Yeah.
So I got no problem bringing those sources up, but we have to, if that's actually like, if you guys actually have HDR sources you want to look at, I'll be the only one that can decode them.
Just wondering how I would encode the FR7. I'm not going to be here next Tuesday anyway. Rats. Yeah, because none of the bird dog stuff supports HDR yet, right?
Not that I've heard.
And all the KiloView stuff I have is only 3G, and
Something a
Yeah.
KiloView, something a KiloView's products did is using the NDI6 SDK, but I'm not sure if HDR was a part of that, or if it was just literally the, you know, just the 10-bit 422, not the HDR component.
Well, let's focus on, let's go in with numbers, the cameras, and sync is a bigger challenge right now.
Yeah.
We'll worry about the HDR down the road in about 5 years when it matters.
What are you talking about, dude? I'm going to be doing HDR productions literally this summer.
I mean, you're the only one with a switcher who can do it, so like it's not like we can do it.
Well,
One
just a vector
question
license at that point.
for if let's say I want to distribute the same NDI feed to 40 Zoom instances in AWS. In the past, we were a little wary of like oversubscription of the single sender. Can I just use a couple instances with NDI Bridge running in local mode to
Yes.
work as a DA?
Yes. That's why local mode really exists, because it was a DA and then it was a transcoder, basically.
Got it.
So so you could encode into HX. You could take HX signals and make them NDI. So if you had an HX camera or something and didn't have a HX device
Mhm.
that you wanted to receive it, you could turn it from HX to NDI, or you could use it as a DA, basically.
Got it. So would I
But that
need
over,
to
sorry.
would I need to set it to transcode, or would I need to like even could just say do not transcode and just pass it through?
That's up to your workflow at that point,
Okay.
because it would be, it wouldn't, yeah, it would be routed through there. And
That was basically
yeah, it
my
wouldn't
thinking.
transcode.
with-
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
I was trying to think of how that would impact.
Like,
the
is it
original
like
sender.
routing when I said
No.
it to do not transcode, or is it actually like creating a receiver
Yes.
and taking the same and putting it into a sender again?
Right. It wouldn't be it wouldn't be so So for example, if you use the studio monitor sort of pass-through method to that goes from, let's say you start at signal A, you run it through studio monitor, and then you have system C look at studio monitor because you can do that. That goes back to A. But if you have it running through Bridge, it goes back to B. It goes through B from a bandwidth perspective and an encoding perspective.
Right. That's awesome.
There's also a thing that we did a test where, like you were saying about the unicast signal, that it was something around, I think, 20 or 25 subscribers, and then the unicast signal really kind of fell apart. But that's when we changed over to RUDP, and that fixes the oversubscription issues that we saw.
And I just found that you can script the NDI bridge. That's perfect. One weird question I had: if you use NDI bridge to convert a full bandwidth NDI to NDI HX, and then you look at that in a studio monitor or the recorder, does that then record NDI native, or does it record H.264 files?
Okay, if you're looking at it through the bridge, it will be HX. Yeah, but they will still be, they will not be H.264 files. They will be the MOV files with this, the NDI little sidecar.
Yeah,
it comes with it.
Okay. Good to know. Yeah,
Done that a few
recording
times.
NDI is still a big thing that sometimes is weird for us. Well, especially at scale, like we use Nimble, but we found one of the issues is if there isn't audio being sent, like when there's silence, some of the programs send no audio frames, and then Nimble stops recording the audio, and then when we then export it, it just messes the sync up and all that. Should try to see what happens if I send it through local mode through Bridge.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there. It's cool.
Say again, Lenny?
It's just fun seeing all these things out there.
Oh,
all these different signals. Yeah, that's cool. So this is kind of a test when I said you could just KVM anything. I've got that machine back there. I'm just seeing if anybody took advantage of it and tried it.
So when I set my buffer on the host machine, is that global for everyone, even if like two systems that join it talk to each other that have the buffer set to 0?
I don't think so.
Okay.
If it, yeah, it's only if it goes through you. If I subscribe to one of Lenny's sources right now, I'm gonna go from my source or from me to Lenny directly. I'm not gonna run through the host.
So then whatever you set up as your buffer will be the additional buffer.
Mhm. Hey, John, I know you have Flowix running on yours. Which buffer is that on your
Flowix is buffer 7 and 8. And
Yeah, cool. So
and those should show up as NDI sources now.
Yeah, and it carries the alpha with it.
Correct.
Yep. So in theory, I could come over here and go this. Buffer 7. Oh, that's not there it is.
Buffer 7's
So-
a big ugly NBA scoreboard.
Yeah, but it's now on that monitor there.
Yep.
Working.
And I could change it.
Yeah, animate it. Make it do something. See it over my shoulder?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that alpha, like, I mean, that really is the one thing that is really cool, like from a tech standpoint, is that alpha carries, because like that's a pain with anything else.
Right.
When you have to do like double wide encodes or other weird trickery, or I don't know, use tail scale and then the eye over that, or do just weird things.
Come on, guys, just use your new new generation IP standard that doesn't support alpha channel.
Cool.
Maybe in another 5 years when they revise it.
You mean 702110 ref 202030 that
yeah, they're working on it to look at it in 2030.
Yeah, it was interesting. I had a local broadcaster in my area, and they said the number one hardest thing for them was to understand how NDI and key fill works. I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, how do we sync the source? I'm like, you don't. You have alpha in the source, and they're like, okay. And then they finally figured it out. But it's weird. That is
So my
really
master show
really
was
weird.
already all 2110. So are they just sending key and fill separately as two sources? Yeah, okay. Yeah, but I mean that still works. So
Not in 2024, man.
Yeah. I mean, it uses double everything. You know, use two
Yeah,
sources on your switcher.
just
use two
double
sources of-
uncompressed signals
Yeah.
for what reason?
bandwidth on that truck wasn't an issue. So
Well, right. That's the logic, though. I mean, when you have unlimited resources, that is the way to do it. But,
well, I mean it's limited,
that
but I
doesn't
think
scale.
it's something
know?
like 102 terabytes. I think was the max of the network. So
But also on the
virtually
Masters,
unlimited
there
at that
was
point.
how many trucks were in Augusta?
oh, this was only one show I'm talking about.
Yeah,
But there were 52 trucks when I left the week
Yeah.
before the men's master started.
Yeah, 52.
That's crazy.
That's typical for that show.
No, it's a huge show, absolutely, and it's only growing, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When you
I
got that
mean,
kind of sponsorship, that kind of money, you can
look at
you
all
can do
the
this.
ancillary stuff that happens the week before now that NBC has. I mean, I'm there for all of that, so that's way cool.
Cool.
But yeah, that was the funny comment from NEP that ND2 is a 400 gigabit based switch truck, and everything else they built so far is all built around 100 gigabit switches. And after building ND2, they said, we don't think we're going to make another one of these because, the 100 gig trucks still have way more bandwidth than we'll ever need in the 5-6 year future, and this truck has more bandwidth than we think we'll need in a 10 to 15 year future. So
That's cool. That's cool.
yeah, they were bonding 16 400 gig trunks between each of the 4 trailers. So that's we figured out the math that was enough bandwidth for 533 12G 4K 60 frame HDR sources in between each trailer, 533 paths coming and going.
That's insane.
But I mean, you look at the monitor wall, I mean, and most of it's multi-view, so you don't really have to send every pane over there, but there's something like 320 something panes that you can put in the monitor wall in the main AVS room. So
That's
TV
crazy.
too expensive, isn't it?
Mhm.
But I
All,
mean,
Now
all that
imagine
technology
how
and
many.
bandwidth can't do.
Now imagine how many more sources you could have used if you used BCP10 and the proprietary Blackmagic standard to send it over a 10 gig copper.
so I talked to them at NAB about that, the 4-way and the 8-way boxes, and they're like, yeah, since there's only 8 10 gig ports, that there's not an option of sending uncompressed that always uses IP10 when you're in 4K. And I'm like, great. So what happens when I hand that off to, like, say, an NEP truck that's expecting uncompressed? And they're like, nope, so the subscription won't happen because unless they have IP10 in their system. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm sure they're going to rush right out and buy into that.
Yeah. Well, but they are saying anything below 12G is gonna be uncompressed.
Yeah, well, because you have enough hardware output at that point.
Yeah.
So, but in 4K though, yeah, they're like, yeah, the IP10 kicks in and that's it. I mean, unless maybe you're running 6G.
Which does pose the question if the smart scope and the audio monitor, which like those are some that like in every truck I've yet seen like an audio Blackmagic audio monitor or one of those scopes somewhere.
Well,
But
it's
if
funny,
they-
us audio guys, we like actual numbers by the LEDs, so we know what LED is what
Yeah.
value, and just I don't think they ever put a scale on that thing. It's just arbitrary.
It's interesting times for sure.
Yeah, and why do I need one of those when I mean I'm sitting behind a $1 million Calrec that's got as many views as I could ever want.
That's a good point.
So, well, 5:30 here. You guys feel like we're beating this dead horse enough, or you guys want to keep going? Well, Jeff left me in charge to turn off the light when we were done.
That was probably a big
Bad
mistake.
idea.
Do you still have the recording running? Can you
Oh
running
yeah.
and say
Oh,
bad
you know
things
what?
about
We didn't
Jeff?
stop the recording here. I'm stopping the recording. Bye, everyone.